You're listening to Midlife State of Mind podcast, hosted by Erin and Belinda Fleming, two gals who dish on all the challenges and opportunities that come with this middle section of your life. Each episode, you'll find yourself going between laughter and tears as they cover all the topics you need to know about midlife.
Welcome back to Midlife State of Mind. I'm your host, Erin Beadle. Well, today I am solo, coming on with the sole purpose of chatting with you guys about our retreat that we are hosting in Italy. This retreat is taking place October 21st to the 27th of 2023 in Montereggiano, Italy, being held in an 800-year-old classic Tuscan farmhouse called EBO. It has been converted into a retreat space and run by a wonderful woman named Francesca. Before I give you a little bit more details about the program that goes along with this retreat, I want to give a little bit of a backstory to the podcast and the creation of this podcast. Back in the early days of the pandemic, my youngest son was getting into his senior year of high school, and I knew that once he left for school and I became an empty nester, things were going to change for me. I had been what I consider a stay-at-home mom, even though I have been a yoga teacher for over 10 years and had a couple of little side businesses. My main endeavor had been to be a stay-at-home mom. If you've listened for a while, you know that I have 3 sons, and I have always made that my priority once they were born, once my second one was born. But with my youngest getting ready to go away to college, I knew that I was going to have a lot more free time on my hands. And I was really at a crossroads, didn't know what I was going to do, how my life was going to look. And I had lots of worry and anticipation. And around this time, that was maybe a year into the pandemic or so, I had begun hosting rooms on an app called Clubhouse. If you know anything about it, it's an auditory app where you get to host rooms. There's people hosting rooms on topics ranging from real estate to nutrition, all the way to photography. Anything you can think of, there is somebody that has a room. With a friend, I had begun hosting a room called Old Enough to Know Better. And the reason that we chose that vehicle of Clubhouse was, one thing, it was really popular. You had to have an invite to join. But also because the idea of starting a podcast, while I always had thought it would be so cool to do, I'm very technologically challenged and it just seemed too difficult. We were hosting these rooms on Clubhouse, getting a lot of positive feedback. But the only drawback to Clubhouse was that if you weren't on when the actual room was being hosted, you couldn't catch it. There was no replay. You couldn't listen to it at your leisure. And so I just decided, you know what? I'm just going to figure out how to host a podcast. That's how this podcast came into being. From the very beginning, I knew that along with the podcast, that I wanted to host a retreat to go along with the podcast. As I said, because for many years, my primary focus had been on being a mom, I was at a loss and decided that using Midlife State of Mind would be a great way for me to share my experiences as a woman in midlife, challenges that I was facing, my worries, revelations that I'd had about life up until this point. That is what I did, was just we talk about all things related to midlife. But I knew that I wanted it to be more than just sharing each week on episodes. I had a vision that the podcast would be a way for me to reach listeners who would have similar experiences that would come together in a retreat space to have a form of community. When Belinda and I started talking about a retreat, I've hosted several retreats. She's hosted several retreats. What really just popped out to us was the idea of taking a retreat to Italy, making it an immersive experience. If you've never been on a retreat, it's unlike any other experience. I've personally attended retreats for myself, and they are life-changing. So as we thought about places to go, Italy just kept coming to mind. And I have a funny story. Several years ago, it was right before the pandemic, my husband and I and another couple friend, my heritage is Greek, and My Nana, my dad's mom, 4'10", typical little Greek grandmother, or so we've been told she's Greek. But I went to Greece, visited a couple islands in Athens, and the whole time that we were there, I just was like, this just does not feel like home to me. I don't know. I thought once I got to Greece, I was going to just be like, this is my heritage. This is my, my ancestry. My husband and I, our friends left to go back to the States, and we hopped over to Sicily for 5 days. We had never been to Sicily, so it was our first time. But when the plane touched down in Italy, it was like, I just felt home. So if you've never been to Italy, there's just something about the people, the land, the culture, the food. It's unlike any other place I've been. So Italy was top of the list for Belinda and I. And through researching, she found EBO, and we vetted it and decided that this is the perfect place to host our retreat. The retreat is called Reclaiming Your Wholeness, and the reason that I chose that name was because one of the reasons that the podcast came to be was because I felt like I had lost myself in the process of being a stay-at-home mom. I don't regret it for one single minute of being a stay-at-home mom, but I had put my children's needs before my own, which is what most mothers do, and had forgotten all the things about myself. Like, what did I like? What did I want to do? What did I like to eat? And so when we're busy, either raising kids maybe, or running a business, or any of the things that we do, we often lose touch with ourselves. We lose touch with our physical self, our energetic self, our emotional self, and our mental self. We do this for survival, right? Because we feel like we can't pay attention to all of that stuff and have dinner on the table and have clean clothes and have all the bills paid and work and run kids to carpool and all the many different things that we have to do. So the goal of this retreat is simply to give yourself the time, the space, and the energy to reacquaint and reconnect and to know yourself again. We'll spend the week really diving into all of the different layers of ourselves, like I said, the physical body. So using all 5 senses to experience the world. Our energetic self, paying really close attention to the shifts that we have in energy during the day, honoring those shifts when our energy is low, letting ourselves have that time to rest no matter what else is available to us. When our energy is high, engaging emotionally, so giving ourselves permission to feel all of the feelings, to experience the full gamut of feelings, not labeling them as good or bad, not trying to stifle anger or sadness, letting ourselves fully experience each emotion. So having that time to devote to that. And then mentally slowing down, paying attention to our thoughts, looking at our thought patterns that we have when we get stressed or when we're tired, or where does our mind go? And so using this time to focus on what's going on within ourselves, giving ourselves the luxury of not having to worry about anything except for ourselves. It's rare, but it's something that I feel every person is worthy of investing in themselves. It definitely is an investment of time and money and resources. You're having to leave home, arrangements, take time off from job or family, invest the money to travel, and it's not something that Belinda and I take lightly. I encourage you to head to our website, midlifestateofmindpodcast.com. Click on the link at the top that says retreats. Read up on it. You can request more information. You can hit that button and it will take you to an email so that you can get in touch with Belinda and we can reserve your space with a deposit. We are really looking forward to hosting individuals who are wanting to take the time to reclaim their wholeness. We're looking forward to having you on our retreat and can't wait to see you. If you enjoy our content here on Midlife State of Mind, please hit that follow button so that you can stay connected for new episodes, and give us a 5-star rating and a written review on whichever podcast platform you listen to us on. This really helps us to reach new listeners and grow the Midlife State of Mind community. We thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
This has been an E Squared production.